HVAC with Stephen Rardon is sponsored by TrueTech Tools. Quality tools, essential support. TrueTechTools.com.
What's up, YouTube? It is Monday, November 27. Took me a second to remember what day it was. And actually not getting into anything today that I know of, unless something pops up. But I wanted to give a little bit of a preview to something that is coming, and should be pretty interesting for the channel, I hope. So I was talking to my brother, my older brother, and he said, you know, I think I might be able to improve the efficiency of my air conditioning if I change out my ductwork. And we were doing a FaceTime call, so he took me around the house and showed me his registers and his returns, and then the ductwork in the basement, and the system appears to be an old gravity fed unit that had supply registers in the center of the house and returns at the perimeter. So he's got this 90% furnace on an air conditioning unit from 1987, and he wants to change his ductwork to improve efficiency. And I said, well, considering the fact that you've got ducts coming off of the plenum all over the place, right next to the coil, even has a duct below the coil drain pan, so that that one duct doesn't actually get any air conditioning at all. It's pre-evaporator. I said, well, if we're gonna change the ductwork, we're gonna have to move that evaporator, and if we're gonna move the evaporator, we might as well replace it and replace your air conditioner at the same time. And so I've been itching to get into a chance to use the Bosch heat pump, the Bosch inverter heat pump. And so I'm trying to convince my brother to spend a little bit and go ahead and buy the coil and the condenser at the same time that we are doing the supply ducting. And if we're in there for supply ducting, we might as well get in there for return drop as well. And if it weren't for the fact that I'm going to be trying to do this over the Christmas to New Year break, I'd really like to go back with, you know, hard metal duct and insulate it and, you know, improve everything nicely in that manner. But with the time constraint, I think we're going to go for flex duct and maybe try to add a couple of registers on the perimeter of the house for outlet, and where we can, flip-flop return and supply. Definitely more optimistic than I probably should be, but that's what I've got in mind. And so we're gonna see if we can make it work over the Christmas break. Once again, quote unquote break, and see what happens. Figured I'd talk about that because it was on my mind for now, and then we'll probably just close this into a video when we actually do the work. So anyway, that's all I've got for the moment. We'll check back in after a while. Alright, so we don't have a whole lot of preview up to this, but we do have this. This is Project Rardon. I think it's Rardon 2.0, or is it 1.0? I don't know. I did Project Rardon on my own house. This is Project Rardon Senior, or Elder, or something along those lines. But anyway, we've got this newer 2-stage 90% efficient carrier, or Bryant, same difference, and an old 1986 evaporator coil up here. And my brother wanted to replace all of the ducting, but when I noticed that his evaporator coil starts here and he wanted to change all his ducting, I knew it was going to be an issue. So I convinced him to let me put in a Bosch evaporator and condenser, and we're going to rework this plenum. We're going to drop the coil down to the top of the furnace so that we have as much plenum as we can, even though we don't have a whole lot. And then at this point, my idea is to take a trunk line and bring it across the ceiling here to catch the ducting that'll be over there, and then some of it will come this way to catch that space up there. We're not doing a major redesign of the duct necessarily, because we are on a bit of a limited time scale to, you know, do it all perfect in any way that we would want to. But wanted to give you a preview before we demoed any farther, just so you got an idea. We're gonna scrap the carrier filter cabinet and go for an April air, and then we'll probably be going back with the same humidifier, even though it doesn't seem to work that good. Of course it doesn't, it's a bypass. But anyway, that's where we're at. We're gonna see if we can not screw this up royally, and we'll keep you with us as much as we can. What's up, YouTube? I did not do a very good job of recording video, and actually I didn't record any. Not really. But we finished up on this Bosch install, at least what I was needed for. There's a couple of things that they're gonna tidy up when they get done, but we pulled out this 1987 Sears air conditioning unit. As I understand, it's a 3-ton, though you can't read any of the model numbers anymore. I think my brother said he found the paperwork that said it was a 3-ton. The new condenser is a little off level, just a little bit, though it kind of seems like it follows the siding line. The top of the unit to the siding kind of looks okay. We got it up on legs, and we're gonna leave that insulation for the pipe for when the temperatures change and he can pull that conduit close to the pipe, and then he can pull that electrical box off as well. So that's the condenser. Here is the pile of ductwork trash that we pulled out. Everything, for the most part, was completely uninsulated, though, you know, it's not unusual up here. But the point that was really interesting, and I think I mentioned it in my short video earlier, was this collar right here. Basically got zero airflow because the coil was slammed up to the top of the plenum, and you'd have to have a miracle to get much air through that collar right there. I was pleasantly surprised to see the inside of the coil box was basically spotless, considering the system has had zero maintenance ever. I think there may have been a heat check or a heat service call once in the past 15 years or so, but the coil had never had any maintenance. Probably the saving grace was the whole house filter, the MERV 11 or MERV 8 that was in here. That was installed apparently when the furnace was installed, so that has been some years ago now. We're going to take a peek inside and show you the disaster that we've done here. Yes, I used flex duct, but I also only had 2 days to do this in, and I ended up in 3 days anyway. So there used to be a duct that went through this hole, and we eliminated that hole being necessary and ran that duct in through that opening back there. There's some insulation that still needs to happen for some of these elbows, but left that to my father and my brother to DIY a little bit of. The returns were interesting. Let me back over here where we can look at it a little bit. So this whole system was returns on the exterior walls and supplies in the center of the house. So I had to figure out how to flip-flop all of that and maintain enough airflow for 3 tons. So I took one of the interior supplies that was like 10 by 8, and I cut it open and blew it out to 30 by 8 on the floor, panned the floor joist bay, and painted the crap out of it so that it wouldn't have any air leaks on the wood cracks. So that is this box, or this panning metal right here. And then we come down to a 20 by 10 trunk duct that, if it had ended up with 4-foot sections, we could have done this a little differently, but the sections that the supply house had were 32 inches. So I had to cut one in half to pan into the floor joists, and then another 32-inch section to drop this elbow. This elbow is also 20 by 10, and the reason I did that is because up here above it, I've got a supply that needs to go upstairs. And if I had this trunk all the way up to the floor joists across the top, I wouldn't be able to get that supply from where it is to the plenum. So I had to drop the duct down to where it didn't obstruct where I needed to tie in supplies. I built my own riser off of the plenum because it the coil is built into the plenum box. So the coil sits on top of the furnace, and then the plenum is wrapped around it, and that riser starts about where the drain pan starts. But I wanted to maximize the volume in that plenum box since it is so short. The coil stops right about here, so we've got space above the coil, but I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of air space to go this direction. On the return side here, we put a new Aprilaire 16 by 25, got a drop duct for the return, 24 by 10 square duct going up. We've got the comfort guard in a functional but not necessarily pretty setup. We've got the humidifier here, as it was about the only place we had to put it. The humidifier runs in hard pipe and is mastic painted in. And then the best I could do with the current control was bury it in this box and bring the handle out and mark it for percentages and off. There's another return up here above this panning metal, and that goes through this custom box here to reach up there. And then this supply flex here goes to the downstairs office. So we've done as much as we can within the time we had, and he's going to fix this drain line to give it a proper slope. And so anyway, that's where we're at. The comfort guard sensor, this one here is for the float switch. The gray wire on the back there is return air temperature. Yellow wire is for suction line temperature. Red wire is for liquid line temperature. And then the black wire is the supply air sensor. I haven't got all of that signed in and logged in, so I couldn't monitor it, but it's ready to rock. I've got some numbers from the combustion test that I did on the furnace and the temperature rise. There are definitely some adjustments I would like to make, but I am out of time. This is end of day 3, and I've been busting my butt to do what I've done. They're going to wire in the SS1 float switch when they run the drain line, and thumb gum the drain openings on the plenum box to, or Diversa-Gum sealing compound. We did do a little zoom action on this system. I zoom locked the suction and liquid at the evaporator coil, but the filter dryer and condenser connections, I have not been able to find bi-flow zoom lock dryers locally when I need them, so I've had to sweat in dryers still. But anyway, I think that's about what we've got. Did what I could as well as I could in the time I was given, and I think it turned out pretty well. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you checking it out, and we'll keep you updated as we log into the comfort guard system so that you guys can see what that will show us, so that if you're interested in either getting it as a customer or selling it as a contractor, you've got a little bit of real-world information there. So anyway, we'll catch up with you guys later, and I'm gonna go grab some dinner.